Now we have another very interesting paper. We are now going circling around with Professor Francis Paul Carpinelli, Professor Emeritus at the Benedictine College, Atchison, Kansas, USA. Since 2011, he has published 3 articles published in Moreana on Thomas More and on Utopia. He has presented papers in more than 10 conferences, mainly on Thomas More and his family, but also on Edmund Spencer, Cervantes, and Gerard Manley Hopkins, so quite a large field of interest. So, Professor Carpinelli, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank our technical director right here, Hubert. He will be providing us with slides, so you will not just have to listen to me, you will get to see images on the screen. In talking about encircling, I would ask you to think about surrounding, like a wall around a city, or an ocean around an island, like Utopia. I would also like you to think about enclosing. Enclosure was one of the problems that Thomas More talked about in Book 1 of Utopia. And I would also like you to think about embracing, personal, your arms around someone. And these kinds of encirclings can be very positive or can be very negative, as we will see in just a minute or two. You can see this is a very short presentation, just 5 paragraphs, and I will try to get through them very quickly. Just one other point. Those of you who are wearing wedding rings, usually they are gold, sometimes silver, but gold is very important in Utopia, of course, because More wants to downgrade it, to devalue it. But also think about the shape, round. But the circle represents infinity, it represents perfection, God. But sometimes it's confinement in prison. Now, we're not going to talk about subservience so much here because my wife is sitting over there. My wife Cecilia, and when we were coming here, of our 5 children, 2 of the girls said, "We are coming." And so our oldest daughter Catherine is there, and our youngest daughter Nora. So they help swell the crowd for us. Right? So let's get started here. First paragraph, well before he wrote Utopia, More was familiar with both positive and negative uses of encircling throughout the Psalms. And so there's an example here, Psalm 16. The psalmist appeals to God to shield him, quote, from mine enemies who surround me. Notice, circum dederunt. I'll try to skip the Latin so you don't have to listen to my pronunciation. In Psalm 31, the speaker says that God is his refuge from the trouble that besets him. However, so both of those images are negative, but by verse 10, he states that mercy surrounds him that trusts in the Lord. And there are several other verbs you can find representing encircling, so we have them listed here. Second paragraph is surrounding and closing. Within Utopia, More uses encircling images in a positive sense to describe the defenses for both the island itself and its main city of Amoratum. And so we have the city here, well, you see it, and then of course, I don't know, did we have one of the island or not? Not the whole island of Utopia? But
we have it there.
Okay, good. Okay, fine. So at one time, the land was not surrounded by the sea, but King Utopus separated it from the mainland by excavation into the shape of a new moon, with 2 ends tapered and curved to form a circle. 500 miles in circumference. Amorotum is surrounded, the city, by a high, broad wall and a moat, and thorn hedges surround the fortifications. So these are very positive forms of defense around both the island and around the individual cities. But note, when Hythloday describes enclosure of land in England with, quote, one insatiable glutton choosing to surround, that's our key word, circumdet, many thousand acres with one fence, he is describing greed, avarice, one of the main vices that he attacks. And I think many people may simply get to this passage and say, oh, okay, there's a fence or something surrounding these acres, but the whole passage is stressing this terrible gluttony on the part of one person who forces other people off the land. And so I think you'll see that that's a key image I want to stress, especially in the next couple of paragraphs. So the next paragraph is on embracing. Note the uses of amplektuntor. Learning is key for the Utopians. They cling, this is the word, amplektuntor, above all to mental pleasures, which they value as the first and foremost of all pleasures. Now, it's not just that they like learning, they embrace learning. They want to put their arms around it. They love learning. Okay? Well, you would expect that. That's good. But notice what comes just a little later. Moore uses the exact same verb to describe the Zapolitans' attachment to warfare. They are born for warfare and zealously seek an opportunity for fighting. When they find it, they eagerly embrace it. Same word. Exact same word. Spelled exact the same word. What we have here then is a perversion of embracing. It's not what the Utopians want. They love learning, the pleasures of the mind. The Zapolitans love warfare, and they love money. And these are the main things that are attacked in Utopia. Avarice, greed, bestiality, warfare. The narrator, Hythloday, describes warfare as only suitable for beasts, not for humans. And so I think this is quite significant, and I think it's an interesting translation problem, that when you come across the word like this, that is exactly the same, and you get this stark contrast between these beasts, these Zapolitans, who live for warfare and who will change sides for a penny, and they will kill their relatives, their friends, anybody else, for money. So I think it would be wonderful to have a nice big footnote in the translation for this particular verb, this form of embracing. Okay? So I just finish off the paragraph here. They switch sides for just a penny more in wages, perverted values of warfare and greed. Now, other embracings. Okay, many Madonnas and pietas. Here is one for us. A mother with a child. And here is the final embrace, the last chance that Mary gets to embrace her child before they bury him. So at the very beginning of life, you have this maternal love, this form of embracing, which is very natural. And at the end, you have Mary embracing once again in the Pietà. Now, there are many other types of embracing. So I have a list here, and you could add to this list, I'm sure. The rape of the Sabine women. This is not exactly a form of love going on here. Then we also have St. Francis of Assisi and the leper. Yes, here we are with St. Francis and the leper. At first, St. Francis was repelled by lepers. He felt he couldn't stand them. He wanted to stay away. Pardon me, I'm going to hand this man. This is what we're talking about.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's for a sinner who comes too late.
Okay. So we have Francis makes a major conversion in his life when he finally embraces the leper. And this is a form of humanity. You know, you have to love someone even if you don't like that person or even if you feel, repelled. So we have Judas kissing Jesus. Oh my, what an extreme example of an embracement. Here's a Giotto Judas kissing Jesus. Well, how do you think Jesus feels at this point, Why are you kissing me? You're kissing me because you are betraying me, not because you love me. So what kind of an embrace is that? And also, now, I don't know if this works, but you may respond. Henry VIII with his arm around Thomas More. Now, imagine. No pictures, okay. Thomas More is, according to Erasmus, medium height, maybe 5, 6, or 7 at that time, somewhere around there. And Henry is 6'1", 6'2". It's like Hubert putting his arm around me, So, the first biographer of More, William Roper, his son-in-law, said, "Oh, it's so wonderful that Henry puts his arm around you and makes you feel good." And Thomas says, wait a minute. If Henry could get a castle in France for my head would roll. And so Thomas More does not have a completely positive attitude towards embracing. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's very, very bad. So I'm sure there are many other examples you could think of, but these are the ones I listed for you here. So, if you remember nothing else from this talk, try to remember I'm not doing it well, amplectuntur. Okay? So if you walk out, amplectuntur. Okay. All right. 2 more paragraphs and we're finished. Wearing crowns. A fascinating concentration of encircling images occurs when Hythloday tells of the punishment of utopian criminals, including gold rings encircling their fingers, gold chains thrown around their necks, and a gold crown binding their temples. So you have different verbs for encircling you can see here. This description, plus the following story of the Anamolian ambassadors, these are full of irony, partly because of the people's regard for gold. It's the first thing you think of course. Well, they're making fun of gold. Gold is for fools, it's for clowns, it's for children to play with. But also because of the encircling images themselves. Not just the gold, but the circles, which may cause readers to meditate on various head coverings. Okay, so are we going to have, there, is this Caesar maybe over there on the left there? And I'm not sure what we have on the left. Oh, good, very good. So we have some, do we have any, okay, what else do we have here?
Tudor is also a circle.
Okay, all right, what's next here? Oh, not him yet, not him yet. We have wreaths of laurel, Julius Caesar, Dante, the crown of thorns for Jesus. Is this a positive kind of crown? No. It's a negative form of encirclement, of embracing. The Roman soldiers are saying, "Oh, you are the king of the Jews. Yes, we'll give you a crown." Okay, then you have saints' halos, you have lords of misrule, kings' crowns. Finally, we come to kings' crowns. Oh, what is this? Is Moore getting too close to getting into trouble with the royalty here? So Moore's text, and this is another problem for translation, Moore's text does not include a word for crown. Ralph Robinson, the first translator of Moore's Latin text into English, simply has, their heads are tied about with gold. And other translators have done likewise. Others have chosen gold coronets and gold headbands. It's a significant translation problem. Most of us read the Yale edition and we think, oh, crown, sure. No, there is no word for crown in the Latin. It just says some kind of gold around the head. It doesn't say crowns. It doesn't say coronets. Nothing. So the translator is faced with the problem of, well, what do I put there? I was very interested that the Yale translation uses crowns, and the Cambridge edition is something else. I forget exactly what it is. I think maybe it's coronets or something like that. But if you go back to Ralph Robinson, he just says what we have here. Simply, heads be tied about with gold. So, what do you do as a translator? How do you deal with this passage? So maybe Moore was saying, maybe he's laughing, saying, good, figure out what you want to do, what you want to have here. All right, finally, wearing golden necklaces. The Anatolian ambassadors assumed that golden necklaces were signs of both wealth and power, rather than restriction and humiliation. Certainly during the 16th century, Henry VIII's chief officers of state wore their golden necklaces, which indicated their elevated status, but also their subservience to their ruler. It indicated not only power, but also who you were serving, that you had this role. So, how do you think Thomas More felt when he put on his golden necklace in the most famous painting we have of him? There he is with all those S's and the Tudor rose at the bottom there. Erasmus says that Thomas More wore this kind of garb as little as he could. He didn't like going around like this. Now, I want to read one very brief epigram for you. Pardon me, it's by Alexander Pope. And I know that Alexander Pope comes centuries later, but I think it's appropriate. This little epigram, only 2 lines long, is called Epigram Engraved on the Collar of a Dog, which I gave to His Royal Highness. It's by Pope. And this is what the dog says. I am His Highness's dog at Kew, Royal Palace. Pray tell me, sir, whose dog are you? Oh my goodness. What does that mean? That means that every one of us is subservient in some way. Unless we're God, then you're independent. You don't have to worry about serving anyone. And we remember how Thomas More ended his life. He died the king's good servant, but God's first. Thank you very much.